The Dino-Mights and the Weaver of Dreams. As winter leaves, the big forest was waking up. When winter left in a hurry almost as quickly as it had arrived, nature took its time to savor the moment of awakening. Plants didn't rush to blossom, and trees didn't show off their majestic crowns of elegance just yet. It felt like the moment we sit on our beds, ready to face the day, but still held by our dreams as if they wished to make sure they would not be forgotten. We feel the crisp morning air calling for a new beginning, while still in the gentle embrace of the quiet wonder settled in our hearts during our sleep. Spring admired the big forest from behind a curtain of a shimmering mist, sprinkled with thousands of dewdrops, tiny jewels gifted to the ancient flora by the soft morning drizzle. This beautiful landscape was caught in a semi-still life painting, a moment missed by the talented artist because he blinked for a fraction of the second. This is the moment when magic happens. According to old Dino fables found in the ancient scriptures, if one looks out the window upon opening his eyes, he will forget his dream forever. But if he gives his heart a little more time to wander through the dreamland, he will be rewarded with the most precious token from the great order of things itself, a memory that lasts a lifetime. For what are dreams made of? Dino scholars wondered and debated for generations. No one ever quite knew. Some said dreams were messengers from the future. Others insisted they were memories from the past. Many believed that dreams were magical reflections of our own thoughts and wishes, little mirrors woven of cosmic synchronicity. This story is not about what dreams are, but rather how they change us. Whether we remember or not, our hearts remain connected to the magic, for each night they return to it. Did everyone in the big forest ever had dreams? Did they remember them? We don't know and can't say, but one Dino paid attention. A dream to share. When Doris woke up, she felt her dream had followed her. Sat at the edge of her bed, the Dino-Might artist kept her eyes closed a little longer, just to make sure the dream wouldn't run away. It was beautiful, the young Triceratops murmured to herself. I even remember the colors. But there was something else, something more. Doris opened her eyes as if it was safe to look into her dream again because it was here to stay. And what her heart saw was nothing short of breathtaking. She was walking along the golden shores at dawn. Before her eyes, the landscape around slowly transformed into an enchanted realm, shifting light and color, a moment when brightness changed form, honoring the shadows of the passing night while gently whispering to the day just beginning. The sand beneath her feet was cool and soft, and every step forward, she felt as she were expected. Doris kept walking, leaving small footprints behind to guide her journey back. Suddenly, she noticed she wasn't walking alone anymore. There was a gentle presence, invisible but real, encouraging her to keep going. She stopped for a moment and saw large footprints trailing ahead, as someone had already walked this path, only to vanish again in the distance. Then she heard a call and she had to go back. Doris, breakfast is ready. Grandma's voice, like a soft tide, brought her gently back to the world where she belonged. Elsewhere in the big forest, the sun had already begun its golden stretch across the sky, stretching light over rooftops and treetops alike. Dino Elementary was closed today, not because of a holiday, but because of a tradition. Once every term, the school was given 2 days to rest. The classrooms would be dusted from corner to corner, chalks neatly stacked in rainbow rows, and forgotten drawings rescued from the back of desks. Even Mrs. Splendosaurus's library got a special polish, each book gently wiped, as if to thank them for being so patient between borrowings. The young dinosaurs, meanwhile, had the day off to pursue whatever filled their hearts with wonder. And for Larry, that meant only one thing. He woke up the moment the light touched his windowsill, not drowsily, not slowly, but with quiet determination. Larry was not one to linger in dreams. His adventures began the moment his feet touched the floor. Dreams happened while others slept, but his discoveries waited for him in the waking world, in the deep, leafy silence of the big forest, where secrets nestled under every petal and leaf. Breakfast was his usual, a warm bowl of cinnamon leaf crunchies, a splash of berry milk, and 2 slices of toasted moss bread with honeydew jam. He packed his explorer's satchel, notepads, pencils, and his beloved Encyclopedia Britannicum, Dino Edition, Volume 2, a little worn around the corners from so many field trips. Going to the eastern bloomscape, he called to his mum, already halfway out the door. Back before sundown. The eastern bloomscape was a curious pocket of the forest where plants seemed to grow in rhythms. Some opened only to certain sounds, Others tilted their leaves to catch whispers of light. Larry had named it himself, not because anyone else had discovered it, but because it felt like it belonged to him, the way stories belong to those who listen closely. As he stepped into the forest, the sounds hushed in welcome. The trees held still as if watching. Larry took careful notes as he wandered, sketching a new kind of fern with feather-like edges, jotting down the soft curl of a blossom he hadn't seen before. Then he stopped. Just above a mossy log, strung between two slender reeds, shimmered a spiderweb. Not just any web. It glistened with dewdrops that reflected the forest like tiny portals, and at its center, perched with the grace of something ancient, was a spider unlike any he'd seen. Its body was delicate but sure, its legs long and silver-flecked. A faint glow pulsed from its back, as if it held a secret it had no intention of revealing. Not yet. Larry blinked. "I've never seen a spider like that," he whispered, utterly still. "I need to check the library. This might be something special." And with a final look, careful not to disturb the shimmering thread of the web, Larry backed away, already imagining the quiet corridors of the library and the pages that might hold answers. Though Dino Elementary was closed for the day, its library remained quietly open, as it always did. It wasn't just a room of books and dust, but a living memory of knowledge, a place where wisdom was kept warm like a candle behind glass. The tall double doors stood slightly ajar, as if they too welcomed those who came seeking answers. Inside, the shelves waited with patient curiosity, filled with stories, fables, and forgotten facts. At the heart of it all was Mrs. Splendosaurus, a gentle Dacentrurus with a soft spot for old manuscripts and new questions. She moved like a breeze between the shelves, her long tail brushing the stone floor, reshelving books and humming softly in a language no one had quite deciphered. Some said it was Latin, others believed it was the language of the stars. Larry stepped inside, quietly as always, but with purpose in his stride. In one paw he held his notebook, the other slightly smudged with morning soil. His eyes lit up behind his spectacles as he spotted the librarian, still in her usual place, adjusting the labels on the rare and remarkable section. "Mrs. Splendosaurus," he said gently, not wanting to interrupt the calm rhythm of the room. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I just discovered a very unusual spider, silverback, shimmering and strange. I need to check the natural history archives, but I've never come across anything quite like it before." Mrs. Splendosaurus looked down, her expression curious and bright. "Ah, Larry, you never bother me. Knowledge loves your kind of curiosity." She tilted her head thoughtfully. "You know, it's funny you should ask. Just yesterday, a new volume arrived. It's a bit of an odd one, part natural history, part mythology, and part something else altogether. I wasn't quite sure whether to shelve it under science or legends." She walked to her desk and gently lifted a book bound in mossy green velvet, its cover embossed with glowing silver letters, "Nature and the Hidden Threads." "I haven't even had the chance to classify it," she continued, passing it to Larry, "but I think this might be the one for you." Larry's claws traced the title reverently. He nodded his thanks, carried the volume to the nearest reading nook, and sat beneath a stained glass window shaped like a fern leaf. Sunlight poured through, dappling the pages with leafy shadows. He flipped carefully, past sections on whispering trees, rain-born mushrooms, and migratory fireflies, until he paused on a page gilded with a fine silver border. At the top, the heading read, "The Weaver of Dreams." The illustration was unmistakable. A spider, its back laced with shimmering patterns like moonlight on water, sat at the heart of an intricate web. Its legs were long and gentle, its eyes wise and reflective, not frightening, but knowing. Larry held his breath. The passage beneath read, "The silverback weaver is not an ordinary creature. Thought by many to be a myth, it spins webs not only of silk, but of time and meaning. It is said the weaver lives between the folds of night and dawn, hidden in the dew-drenched corners of the waking world. This rare spider understands dreams, not just where they go when we wake, but where they come from. Some say the weaver listens for the dreams that echo with truth. When a dream holds a message for growth, for healing, or for becoming, the weaver may speak, not in words, but in stillness and signs. But not every dream is meant to be revealed. The ones that are not ready, the weaver keeps safe, until their meaning is ripe for the heart to receive." Larry read the words twice, then a third time. His tail flicked with quiet excitement. He closed the book gently and placed it into his satchel. "This isn't just about spiders," he whispered to himself. "I need to tell the others." And with that, Larry left the library, the silver threads of mystery still glimmering faintly in his thoughts. When he reached Dewlight Meadow, most of his friends had already arrived. The Dino-Mights never needed reminders to gather at their favorite brain hurricane spot. On days when there was no school, they always found themselves at the heart of the big forest, their home. Bound not by duty, but by pure, sincere, and warm childhood togetherness, they shared one of the most precious things of all, their time. Not just playing, but learning, wondering, and growing side by side. Larry could not wait to tell the others about his new discovery. Somehow, his heart already knew that this was the beginning of another adventure they would never forget. He had visited the eastern bloomscape many times in search of new herbs and plants, yet he had never come across the silverback spider before. Today's encounter with the tiny arachnid, a dignified resident of the hidden kingdom among the glowing leaves of Plantalucens, felt like it carried a meaning he could not decipher on his own. This was a Dino-Might kind of mystery, one only solved when all of them unraveled it together. All the Dino-Mights had gathered beneath the wide canopy of the ancient tree that stood at the center of Dewlight Meadow. A soft breeze rustled the leaves above, and golden rays of morning sunlight danced across their favorite meeting place, casting warm patches of light between them. Larry stood with his journal clutched tightly under his arm, his eyes darting toward the forest path. "I've got something important to share," he announced, unable to contain the excitement blooming in his voice. It's a discovery, a very curious one, actually. I came across it this morning during one of my usual expeditions in the eastern bloomscape." Terry looked up from rearranging his rock collection, brow raised. "Another new plant?" "No," Larry replied with a knowing look. "Something different this time. But I'll explain everything when Doris gets here. I want everyone to hear it together." Sporty had just finished showing Spiky a new stretch he'd invented, inspired by one of Mr. Kung Fu Disaurus's lessons. "You're being mysterious, Larry." "I like it," he said with a grin, hopping from one foot to the other. Across the meadow, Misty, Sandy, and Mara were sitting in a small circle, whispering excitedly about the stars Misty had seen just before dawn. Mara had brought her notebook to sketch a constellation she called the Dandelion Crown, while Sandy was folding wildflowers into tiny garlands, determined to make one delicate enough to perch on a hummingbird. "I hope Doris isn't late," Larry muttered to himself, pacing a little. "This mystery. It's a Dino-Might kind of mystery." As the Botano-Raptor, as his friends sometimes called him, finished his sentence, the Dino-Mights spotted Doris heading their way, seemingly moving at a pace other Triceratops would proudly call running. "Doris is unusually brisk today," noted Mara. "I almost never see her walk that fast. I wonder what's the matter." "We'll find out soon enough," said Sporty, then grinned. "I'm honestly impressed. Turns out Triceratopses can be fast if they want to." Finally, Doris arrived at the meadow, though she needed a few short moments to catch her breath. Watching a Triceratops who looked like she had just finished a marathon was amusing, and the Dino-Mights delightfully observed as Doris huffed and puffed, all while frowning in a hilariously sweet attempt to pretend she wasn't even tired in the slightest. "Doris, you deserve a medal. Next sports day, I'm telling Coach Kung Fu Disaurus to put you on my team when we race," Sandy giggled. "Oh, Sandy, you'll have to join the line for that," Barry added, his mind already calculating Doris's pace. How many steps per hour had she just clocked? "Everyone wants champions on their team." All of them laughed, and the sound of their voices echoed through the big forest like the ultimate anthem of friendship and togetherness. Even when they joked, the Dino-Mights were always mindful, choosing their words with care. As the Guardian of Echo once told them, "Words are like pebbles scattered on the grass. Pick them up carefully and arrange them wisely." And they never forgot that. Once everyone had settled into their usual spots beneath the canopy of whispering leaves, Larry stood up, adjusting the weight of the book he had brought with him. "All right, everyone," he began. "I have something really important to share. This morning, as you probably guessed, I went on one of my usual expeditions, trying to find new species. You know me, if Dino Elementary is closed, that means it's time for fieldwork." His friends chuckled and nodded. Larry's passion for plants and discovery was no secret. I wandered into the eastern bloomscape again, he continued, a place I've been to more times than I can count. But today I saw something I've never seen before. A spider. Not just any spider. A silverback spider. He paused, letting the words sink in. It spun a web unlike anything I've ever seen. It shimmered in a way that felt alive, like it was woven from light itself. I knew it wasn't ordinary, so I went straight to the library. Mrs. Splendosaurus was there, of course. She always is. I asked her if there were any recent arrivals in the natural history section, and she gave me this. He held up the book reverently. It's called Nature and Magic, Hidden Creatures of the Dino-verse. The others leaned in. There's a section here, Larry said, gently opening the book, that describes the silverback spider as the weaver of dreams. According to this, it's a rare arachnid, so rare, some dinos think it's only a myth. But it's real, and the book says, the spider can decipher dreams because he knows where dreams come from. The Dino-Mights stared, wide-eyed. I know it sounds unbelievable, Larry said with a smile, but if you come with me, maybe he'll show himself again. I think you'd really love to see him. A pause followed. Then Doris, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder. Larry, that's the reason I was rushing here, she said. I had a dream last night, one I can't stop thinking about. It was beautiful, but I don't know what it means. And now you're telling me that you found a spider who can read dreams? She looked around at her friends. What kind of magic is this? The Dino-Mights exchanged excited glances. The forest seemed to shimmer with possibility. This sounds like a proper Dino-Might adventure, said Sporty, already stretching his legs. One full of mystery, wonder, and maybe even answers, Misty added softly. Let's go, Doris said, a quiet determination in her voice. Let's find the Weaver of Dreams. And just like that, the decision was made. Another story had begun to unfold, one that shimmered like a web catching the morning light. Okay, let's go. Let's find the Weaver of Dreams, said Terry, his voice echoing with excitement. Larry, lead the way. There's no better guide to the depths of the big forest than you. You've explored every corner. Larry beamed with pride, and for the first time that day, adjusted his glasses with a flick of practiced instinct. All right, everyone, he said, his voice steady but full of thrill. Follow me. They set off together, winding through the woodland paths, a ribbon of color trailing against the backdrop of greens and golds. The big forest was just beginning its conversation with spring buds rustled with secrets, blossoms hinted at bloom, and shafts of light filtered gently through the canopy, sketching soft stories across the mossy ground below. As they walked, the air grew warmer, tinged with the scent of pine and fresh earth. The ground beneath them softened with mossy patches, and along the way, glowing mushrooms blinked like tiny stars underfoot. The trees grew taller and older here, their bark carved with ancient whorls, as if holding memories from long before any of the Dino-Mights had hatched. Chirps, clicks, and distant trills created a soundtrack all of their own. Misty paused briefly to admire a wild vine curling like a question mark around a nearby branch. Sandy pointed to a butterfly with wings that shimmered like stained glass, while Spiky quietly hummed a tune inspired by the sounds of the forest. They knew they were nearing the eastern bloomscape, where the forest opened into a quiet clearing cloaked in wild flowers and dew-sparkled light. It was here, among the petals and ferns, that the silverback spider had first appeared, and so, with hearts wide open and eyes full of wonder, the Dino-Mights stepped gently into the place where dreams might just come to speak. And there, unknown to anyone but the 10 young adventurers, among the shimmering emerald leaves of Plantalucens, something wonderful was about to unfold. But not quite yet. Where is he? Said Doubtosaurus in a hushed voice even he himself could barely hear. I don't see a spider. What if he left because there were no dreams to remember? Maybe he's just hiding, added Spiky, with a slight hint of disappointment in his voice. Maybe he didn't want to be found. Oh, I hope he shows up, gasped Doris, the magic of her dreams still safely tucked in her heart. It would be amazing if he could talk to us. If he could talk to me, I'll listen, and I'll remember. Just then, Terry, whose eyes had been scanning the plants, ready to spot even the faintest movement, whispered as quietly as a T-Rex could manage, which, to be fair, was still a little loud. I saw him. Guys! Look! The Dino-Mights looked up as one, and there he was. Elegant, tiny, glowing with a gentle silver light, the silverback spider, or as the ancients once called him, the weaver of dreams. His humble exterior didn't seem to match his fabled personality, and yet something about him was so captivating that the Dino-Mights stood for a few moments in a quiet awe, observing this little messenger who delivers big secrets. Nature could not have created a gentler, more suitable creature to read what's hidden behind a dream. As if he slowly weaved his way in the dream woodlands, knitting a radiant web of scenes that deserve to be remembered. Slowly, patiently, never stopping, connecting invisible worlds with reality with the sole purpose to give meaning to hidden truths and guide dreamers to a meaningful destination. And then he spoke, to Doris. His voice sounded oddly familiar. Good day, young travelers. Approach with no fear. The Weaver has been waiting. The Dino-Mights looked at one another, hesitation lingering between them, as if they feared that speaking might disturb something peaceful, something ancient. The silverback continued, his voice soft and reassuring. What brings 10 brave explorers to the border where sleep turns into a journey, and dreams become footprints? Is it an answer you seek, or a question you wish to ask? Well, this sounds like a riddle, murmured Mara. Aren't they both the same, seeking answers and asking questions? Indeed it is, young Minmai, replied the Weaver, somehow still hearing Mara's words from where he stood high above. For asking a question is not the same as seeking an answer, at least, not where I come from. When a heart asks a question, it is because it already knows the answer. It simply needs to remember. But when one seeks an answer, it is because they are still learning how to ask the question. Oh, I understand, exclaimed Doris, breaking the hushed stillness with the bright honesty of a child who believes she's just uncovered something wonderful, proud to share it, yet shy to take the credit. Her friends looked at her, standing like a little giant beneath the shimmering web of secrets, woven by a timeless creature who had witnessed the birth of the very first dream. This was their beloved Doris, an artist who carried as much magic in her brush as kindness and warmth in her heart, a Triceratops by species, a master of art by nature, and they loved her for it. That's why no one else spoke. They felt the weight of the moment and let their friend continue, uninterrupted. I had a dream last night, and it's still with me, said Doris, and the silverback listened. I was walking along the golden shores. It was a beautiful morning. Then I saw. You saw a purpose, the Weaver gently replied. The footprints you left behind were meant to guide you back home. The ones you saw ahead were meant to lead you to a place that would feel like home. And when the time comes, you'll follow those footprints forward, and you will not be alone, for the good we do follows us, in our dreams and beyond them. Dear Silverback, how did you know what I saw? Because I'm the Weaver of Dreams, he said with a gentle smile, and I used a little magic. Then, his voice shifted, soft and mysterious. After all, you wouldn't be here if you hadn't followed the footsteps. They led you to me because you were meant to know. A purpose is waiting, a new beginning. Soon. Now follow the footsteps back. The voice is calling. The voice of your heart. Well, that makes sense, concluded Terry. I understand now. We're all here because we followed Larry. He found you first this morning. You're right, young T-Rex, replied the silverback spider. Except for one thing, he didn't find me, I found him. I've seen this young raptor many times. I know his heart is kind. His dreams bloom during the day while I rest. He glanced at the others with a knowing gleam. And I know all of you, for each of you has dreamed. Then he winked at Sporty. Am I right, champ? Sporty's jaw dropped. He hadn't said a word. He wasn't the type of oviraptor to talk about dreams. He chased them instead, not to make them disappear, but to make them stay. One medal at a time. The Weaver of Dreams looked at Doubtosaurus with a knowing smile and said, when quiet sorrow weeps, the dream softly sleeps. But when the heart blooms with joy, so do your dreams, little boy. The young Scutellosaurus had never shared his dreams with anyone, except maybe his parents and his grandma. But oh, he had dreamed a lot when he lived in the silent weep. His dreams were full of light, light that didn't exist much in the land he once called home. That all changed with a journey, and the arrival in the big forest. The silverback paused for a few moments, his shimmering presence quiet, then continued with a voice full of humble wisdom. Some dreams are filled with color and blossoms, others are quiet, known only to the soul, never shared. Some are loud and fast and make you chase after them, heart brimming with excitement. And some dreams lead you to a better place, where you find joy, happiness, and new friends. But all dreams change you and help you grow, one magic spark at a time. Farewell now, little ones, I'm sure we'll meet again, and remember your dreams. These were the last words the wise arachnid spoke. Then, with quiet purpose, he slowly weaved his way back into the depths of Planta-Lucens, the glowing plant, his silverback growing dimmer and dimmer, like a distant star drifting from one dream to the next. The Dino-Mights followed him with their eyes until he vanished into the plant, leaving behind his shimmering web as a gentle reminder that dreams keep glowing even after we've opened our eyes. A bird croaked in the distance, pulling the Dino-Mights softly back into the big forest. It felt like awakening. They had grown. Just a little. Now it was time to follow their own footsteps back to the familiar dewlight meadow, where new adventures were already waiting.